It's been a minute, guys, huh? Welcome to Omar Illustrated. And this is the video I think some of you maybe have been waiting for. This is the full breakdown of my Trek 830, I guess it's called a Monstercross slash gravel bike conversion. So I started this project in, I want to say, July. And I haven't really updated you guys, except for little bits and pieces in other videos about this bike. And there's a reason for that. I don't love the bike. I know it's kind of a tough thing to say, something you made piece by piece by hand. It's like saying you don't like one of your kids, which I'm sure there's people that don't like their kids, you know? But for the most part, I've really enjoyed the bike. I've put roughly about 1,000 US miles on it, and it's been fun. It's been great. But there are some things that I didn't anticipate that were kind of annoying, and I had a vision for the bike, and that was to grab it and kind of just make it a road bike with a few gears. And then I kind of like dived into like if that was feasible or not, and it seemed like with these style of bikes, people were kind of going a different route. They were going like Monstercross, which is like a cross bike with big giant beefy wheels. So I kind of my first thing I wanted to do was switch the wheels from 26, because these are 26ers, to 27.5, which is like the standard for gravel bikes, just so I could get like all the gravel bike stuff, gravel bike brakes, gravel bike wheels and tires and all that stuff. But I went to the Trek store, and after like kind of doing some research and my brake options, if I switched to 27.5, it just seemed like two things. It seemed like it would be very difficult, and that's what the Trek store tried to tell me. Like, you could probably pull it off once, but if a component breaks, try to find a replacement for that specific custom part you just broke. It's just a headache, unless you want to do like constant maintenance on a bike. And honestly, if you build a bike, especially if you spend close to $1,000 on it, you want it to be solid for at least 3-ish years, where you don't have to replace any components or anything really major. Maybe the like obviously chain and stuff, but like maybe the tires. But outside of that, yeah. And then yeah, I made some like weird choices with the components. I went with the suspension seat post, which is like completely unnecessary for tires that are this big. And so I realized that, and I bought a carbon fiber seat post after that, and it's working well. And I've kind of been fine tuning the bike over the past, I want to 5 months, and it's close to complete. I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna keep it for the time being. Probably, I want to say like 3-4 years, I'll probably definitely keep it. But then it'll probably be time to move on, and we'll see. I mean, I may give it away to my nephew if he's big enough to ride it at that point, or I'll probably give it away. I'm not going to sell it, because I think selling something custom is like, you never get back what you put into it, and so it's better just to make somebody's day happy if you're going to sell something like super custom like this, which was like tailor-made for me, for somebody my body size and my needs and what I was looking for. So yeah, I'll kind of wrap up. I'll show you the bike in a sec. Let me just say one thing, because this is like the big taking away point where I can give you guys some advice if you're thinking about doing something similar. So when you're building the bike, you're kind of like, okay, what's the best bike I can build? But then once you build the bike, you start thinking like, what is this bike for? Like, am I going to run this bike in the city, which we're kind of going to build it for, but now in the suburbs because of COVID? Am I going to run this bike as like a long distance bike, or is it more off-road, or is it more like training, or etc.? You know, am I going to convert it to e-bike because it's super heavy and it's kind of like tough to do those other things? And so what I've determined about this style of bike, it's great for big guys that want to get in shape, and yeah, big guys that want to get in shape, and people that want to go over every terrain over a long distance. So let me explain those two things. So like, obviously, big tires, big wheels, steel frame, can handle weight, doesn't flex as much as you would think it would. Like obviously you put a big guy on a steel road bike, it's going to flex under bumps and stuff. The mountain bike is made with a wider gauge steel, and so that makes it super heavy, but it also makes it less flexy under, like, I'm 250 pounds, so like under a 250 pound guy, it's handling like it should if it was a road bike and I was a lighter dude. So that's like, and then it's heavy. So the advantage of being heavy for me is that I'm burning more calories going 16 miles. Like I'm 10 miles into it. And like on my old bike, which was a single speed road bike, I wouldn't be sweating. I'm really not sweating right now, but I'd burn less calories going the same distance on a lighter bike opposed to this. This is going to get me in shape quicker, and that's what we all need during COVID, at least. And so the other thing I was saying is that this thing, I have never seen in my life a bike that rolls over grass and dirt quicker. Not a mountain bike, not a road bike, not a gravel bike. If you have to travel 20 miles over grass, I don't think there's a better bike. I don't think there is a better bike. And so this bike just eats up grass. Like it doesn't feel any different than pavement, which is, I just, every time I hit grass, I lose my mind, because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why did this like eclectic collection of components amount to a grass eater? And then I have no idea. But if you're somebody that's going to go like 60 miles in a day, and 10 or 20 of those miles are going to be over dirt or grass, a la gravel bike, this is the dude. This is the main guy. So let's break into the bike. I'll show you the components, and then you guys get on with your day. I'm going to break into wide angle. I think a few people like this before, so kind of let's start in the back here. This is kind of simple here. So I found, I stuck with the 7-speed and a 26-inch rim. So this rim I bought off of eBay. It was about $60. It's a 26. What's nice is the width is 1.75 with a 2.3 with Maxxis DTH tire. I did a review on these tires, so look for that other video if you're interested in the tires. Tires are excellent. I love them. They're super plush. They add a minimal amount of road resistance at low temperatures and low pressures. But if you pump these up to, like, I think the max it says here is what is that, 65? If you put 65 psi in these things, you're going to be outpacing road bikes. And I have outpaced road bikes in the city. People with like single speeds and 700C wheels with like 25 tires, 25C tires. I'm definitely faster, and there's a couple of reasons. Obviously, gearing matters, and so I have a 44 tooth oval chainring here with a wide tooth. This is off of eBay. I'm gonna try to list all these components, because honestly, there's just like a weird collection of components, and everything is from a different place. So it took me a long time to collect this stuff, and but essentially, the main thing about speed here is this chainring. So this free wheel. So this is a free wheel, but it's 11 to 34 tooth. It's as far as like non-cassette free wheels go, this thing is a beast. My climbing power is good. My top speed at 11 tooth, crazy. I am going roughly about 25 miles easy. Obviously I have to be on level ground, but 25 mph NBD, and that's nice. So this is not the original derailleur from the bike, because that derailleur was probably not going to have enough reach for this 34 large chainring on the freewheel. So I upgraded. This is the nicest one I could find at 7-speed. It's a Sarah. It's relatively new, like 3-4 years old off another bike, and it's doing okay. This is probably one of the components I would change in a few years if I decided to keep the bike. Just something a little bit nicer. The shifting is crisp, but it's not perfect, and there are some phantom shifts. It doesn't tension the chain as well as you would hope to. So outside of that, the rear of this bike has turned out pretty nicely. So this is like a Weinman wheel. It was a pre-built. This is like some cheap hub here, but it's worked out nicely. It's lightweight. It's kind of done the job. So moving on to the brakes here. So these are some Tektros cantilever. So I initially switched from cantilever to V brakes, but I thought the V brakes were just too ugly on this bike, and the V brakes had more stopping power, but it was kind of unnecessary, and I wanted to keep the original components of this bike. And look at this little like built-in like the housing holder. This is such a pretty component that it's just lost when you switch to V brakes. And so to keep this as OE as possible, and that wasn't my original intention. When I first got this bike, I was like, I'm gonna change everything, turn it into a Frankenstein bike. But it's just such a pretty bike and well built and well thought out that I was like, I gotta try to keep as much original components as possible. So we stick with the 26-inch wheel, obviously switched it out for a wider rim, and then we upgraded to these very pretty cantilever brakes that are easier to adjust than your standard cantilever brakes, which I still have on the front. Now I actually purchased a set, so I have the front ones, but I spent an hour calibrating these, and so I just didn't want to switch them out yet. Maybe next season. I have the new brakes in the bag somewhere, and once these get like weird or like misaligned, I'll switch them out to the new stuff. But in the meantime, this is okay. Yeah. So going from there, we did some just some Amazon pedals. They're wide, they have spikes. They just kind of give me grip on the descents and hills. They're good enough. And then I did these Pro Max cold forged crank arms. These are 160, so I went short because I figured I wasn't going to be standing up and pedaling and doing mountain bike stuff on this bike, and I'm glad I went short, but I could definitely feel that going 160 raised my whole body in the bike a little bit. So my center of gravity is higher than if I went with a 170, which was, I think this came with like a 175, something super long. So if you go with the shorter crank arm, you're going to raise your center of gravity in the bike and change the handling. And so that was something I was super annoyed by, but I made the choice. And honestly, if you're going to be pedaling with power from a seated position, probably 160 is the way to go. I definitely wouldn't go smaller. 165 for this style of bike is probably the sweet spot, but I could always switch these out for 165s, and these are really nice, really high quality, super lightweight. I could put these on a road bike and be happy with them. And then I said this is a narrow-eyed 44 tooth oval. I was just kind of experimenting with oval. Getting the positioning right is kind of a headache, but you know, it's just something cool. And originally when I took this bike to the Trek store, they were telling me that the original chain, like the 3x7 was something called a Biopace, and the Biopace by Shimano was oval. So in 1993 or whenever this bike came out, it had oval chain rings. So I just figured if it came with oval, just to keep the spirit, I would stick with the oval. I don't think there's much of a difference, and I didn't notice much of a difference, but it's just nice to kind of like keep the original theos of the bike. I don't know if that's the right word, but so I had some chain drops even with the narrow wide, and this is a nice narrow wide. Check it out, it's pretty decent. It's got some heft to it, but I was still getting, because this thing wasn't meant for single speed. There's not enough tension on this chain. So I went with Origin 8, which is one of my favorite companies for components. And this adjustable chain guide has been easy to set up and has not given me any chain drops where I was getting chain drops previously. So that is effective 100%. It's a great product. I really like it. I went with gray and red for the bottle cage holders. They're great. I did a video on this chain. It's great. So moving up, so this is like a carbon fiber seat post off of eBay. It was like $30. It does the job. I've been using it for like a few rides. It's okay. It's better than the suspension seat post that I got that had a ton of play, so the seat wiggled. And so this is like solid and lightweight. It's just an Amazon brake light and a Rock Bros Amazon bag. These are great products. I highly recommend them. And then this is the Bontrager saddle. It's the Commuter Comp. So I've had great experience with Trek products as far as saddles are concerned, and this is no exception. I wouldn't necessarily seek the saddle out and put it on my next bike, but it's comfortable for long distances, and it's not super heavy, and I don't think it's going to break or break my butt. So that's kind of the key components there. So outside of that, I did some like custom red housing. This is just cheap stuff off of eBay. This will get switched out for gray housing next year, because I just think the red is a little tacky, and I think the gray will kind of like spice it up. And so I'm going to switch out the gray onto the housing, and then I'm going to switch my handlebar tape, which is kind of like unfinished from experimentation. This will be great next season too. So moving on, we did a Sunrace, I want to say a Sunrace new headset. Also, the bottom bracket was switched out at the bike shop. Go to which is, I forgot, man. They're great. I forgot which one it is, but the one in, there's one in Chicago in Wicker Park or Bucktown. They do a great job. Anyways, they changed out the headset and bottom bracket for me, so that was really nice. So we went with a Bontrager quill stem. And the reason I went with this is because I needed a 31.8 handlebar for this monster here. So this is a adjustable quill stem, which I'm not comfortable with being adjustable. Obviously, just being quill, you're not going to be as solid as like a non-threaded stem. But adjustable, especially like I'm jumping this bike, you know, so like adjustable just gives you one more point of failure. But since it's a Trek part, Bontrager part, I'm kind of rolling with it, and it's been solid. It hasn't loosened up. I've taken some impacts and taken some hits, and it's taken some hits. This is something I had to order. It's off another bike that Trek makes, so I ordered it from the Trek store. They did a good job. They got it to me in like a month or so, and it's been okay. It's done its job, and if I find something that's fixed and it's not adjustable at the same angle and same height, I'll definitely grab it. If not, this will do for now. So moving on, I went with bullhorns because that's what I'm most comfortable with. I'm not going to say you should do this on your bike. If you're not comfortable with bullhorns, don't go with them, obviously. But this is a little bit a unique piece because this is off a tandem bicycle from Cannondale. And the reason I went with this is, if you can't tell, it's huge. It's 460 millimeters wide, which is maybe 40 millimeters wider than the standard bullhorns you would get on basically anywhere. And the reason for this is because it's like a kind of like a tandem like custom piece they made. They just made a really wide bar, and I found it on eBay, and I was like, I'm going to buy that, and I'm going to build a bike around it. And essentially, that's what I did. And so I experimented. There was some guy that said that this was the ugliest cable routing that he's ever seen in his life ever. And he left a comment on YouTube. And so I videos where I sneak peek this bike, super ugly. So I got rid of the mountain bike brake handles and just went with some, I forgot what kind of, this is like a triathlon style, like aero bike style brake handles, Tektro RX 4.1. These are great. They fit perfectly. They give me enough leverage. One finger, two fingers, no big deal. They do the job. I really like it. So and then all the cables are routed properly. The shifter was up here, and that guy was so upset about the cable housing job that I did, so I dropped it down. I went with a thumb shifter. This is actually going to get switched out with a trigger shifter is waiting at home, but I have no intention of doing that this season. It's just a pain to swap a shifter, you know, especially one where you have to kind of like bend it to fit on this the gauge of this bar, because this bar is 31.8. Obviously most shifters are not made for something that thick, so especially the 7-speed shifters, like obviously I could find like a new like SRAM or Shimano like 11 or 12 speed that could fit on here, but a 7-speed, and I didn't want to go spend all that money and go with like 11 or 12 speed, so 7-speed staying, and then I'm just kind of like gonna try to wiggle that new shifter. It's a Shimano trigger shifter in, but the thumb shifter is okay for now. And then so I have some inline Tektro. These are RL 721s. These work perfectly with these short pull Tektro. I forgot what they're called. They're reverse brake levers. That's what they're called. They work great because this is short pull, this is short pull, and this is short pull. And that's another reason why I switched out of V-brake now, I remember. So just getting everything to be on the same page was tough with the V-brake, especially these don't even come in long pull, the aero bar brake levers. And so if I wanted to have these, I needed to drop the V-brakes. I'm happy I dropped them. They were just ugly. And obviously these are ugly, but man, these are real pretty. Real pretty. And so once they're on front and back, it'll look pretty nice. And then this is just like an Amazon light. This is the iAudi. I got this off Amazon too. This is a good holder for your phone. It's rock solid. I'm sure there's plenty of rock solid ones though, so you can go with whatever you want. That was a pretty fast rundown of this bike. And I know that this video is already super long, so let's just do this. If you guys have any questions, drop a comment, and we'll talk about it some more. And if you want me to review any of these individual products, write a comment. Hey, can you review this product for me, or tell me like specifically which size, which one you got. Also, if you're going to do a Trek 830 build, copy this. There's one thing you really have to watch out for, and that's the freaking seat post size. So this seat post, I don't know what Trek was smoking when they figured out the gauge of this seat tube, but it's 26.6, which is like, what 26.6? So I don't know how I got so lucky, but Cane Creek makes a 25.4 to 26.6 adapter. It was on eBay for $10. Oh my God, they saved my life. Thank you to them. And so I was able to find like an old, like obviously a 25.4 standard size, and I used the shim made by Cane Creek. And if you guys are familiar, they're a really, really nice company. They make high-end parts, specifically like high-end suspension seat posts. And so they really hooked it up on this, because if I couldn't figure out the seat post problem, this whole build was going to be like done. So if you go and track, recognize seat post is an issue. If you buy a bike, make sure it has the original OE seat post. This bike did not. Somebody put something else on here, and so it was a 26.0, and this was smashed shut, and it didn't fit right, and it was going to be a hurdle for me to overcome, but I overcame it. Final thoughts. I like the bike. I don't love the bike. Part of it is because it was a pain to build. Getting parts during COVID was a pain. And moving from the city to the suburbs and kind of using it for something else than what it was built for, that's also kind of annoying, because this bike in the city taking potholes, it's beautiful. Like, it just soaks up potholes. Not as much as like a 29er with a suspension fork. That's like at a different level of soaking up potholes, but in terms of like a full rigid bike, there's not much better. Man, it's cold. I gotta put this thing back on. You guys take care. If you have any questions, if you guys really hate me, let me know. Please, I can try to rectify it. Well, you guys take care. Have a good day. Eat some lemon meringue pie. Peace.